you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
Welcome. It's Friday. Wager Talk Today, Friday, March the 10th. Last show before Selection Sunday. The next time we talk on Monday, we will have the field of 68 set. But in the meantime, there's lots of college conference tournament action on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to complete semi-regular season. I guess it's not technically the regular season, but we're going to talk about it nonetheless. I am Steve Merrill, filling in for the Prez. He might be back next week. He might not. We shall find out. But that is my co-host, Teddy Covers, who is always here every day on Wager Talk Today. And Teddy, a loaded show for Friday. Who we have on?
We sure do. One of the busiest betting days of the busiest betting day of the college basketball season. One of the two, today and yesterday. That being said, Ralph Michaels going to join us right at the top. Ralph, you know what he's got. He's got charts to talk about. He's also going to talk about and this is a really interesting chart that Ralph's going to bring to the table. Comeback wins for live betting in the NBA. That should be interesting to look at and discuss. He's also going to break down the Heat and the Cavs, a rematch in NBA action tonight, as well as college hoops, Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Tony Finn's going to join us next. Tony's got a couple games he's going to break down, Duke and Miami. And I'm not sure if he's going to break down the Blazers and the 76ers or not. I'm breaking down that game as well in my big game breakdown. To close out the show, we've got Andy Lang. He's going to talk some UFC, some NHL, and some NBA, all prop-wise for us. So you got it, Steve. We do have a loaded Friday edition. Let's get right into it.
NBA talk. I thought this was college basketball only Friday. That's right. It's a big NBA card as well. And don't forget, the NBA tip-off shows at 4:15 Eastern today on Friday. I'll actually be on that show. And there's also a college basketball show at 2 o'clock Eastern here on the network. And of course, you can watch everything archived 24/7 on Wager Talk TV on YouTube. And don't forget to download the Wager Talk mobile TV app for your favorite mobile device. All right, let's get right into it. Ralph Michaels. And Ralph, where do you want to start? We got so much information to cover. You got a chart for the NBA, talk some games, the Pens. Ralph Michaels, you will actually be at the meet and greet, I heard, not only on August 19th in Vegas, of course, but next weekend, Ralph. Are you making an East Coast journey to the meet and greet?
Actually, I am not. The hotels were all booked, and I didn't want to drive in from Syracuse. So unfortunately, I am not going to make that trip. But we will have pens galore. And Steve, I'll just mention this to you. Since your son won the last 3-point contest in Vegas, I am ordering a wrestling belt with the Wager Talk 3-point champion and engraving his and Jay Money's name for the first 2 years. So
That is awesome.
we'll have a little more chatter about that coming up in August.
That is awesome. That's even more of a reason for me to come out a little bit early so he can wear it around all week on the Las Vegas Strip, just in case he doesn't retain his title, because I think Jay Money is a little upset. He's going to be coming out to try to get it back in August. And Jay's show's on at 1 o'clock Eastern, by the way. I think I'm going to be on today. So Jay Money, NBA Talks, don't forget as well on YouTube. Some great NBA content. Hey, Ralph, let's stick with the NBA then. NBA charts. I love your charts. I love your TNAs, obviously, your trends and angles. Comeback wins for live betting. Have we ever done a chart for live betting? This might be a first here on Wager Talk Today.
Well, Prez asked for this a few weeks ago, so I thought it only appropriate to bring it up when he's not on the show. So
Exactly.
He better be watching right now and chime in the section. I didn't know where to break it down. Home favorites, what numbers do I use? How big of a deficit do they have after the first quarter or half? So I just did 3 generalizations for each. And I broke it down like this. You might as well put the chart up and I'll talk. The left hand is first quarters. I broke it down from 1 to 5 point deficit after 1 quarter, 6 to 10 point deficit, or if you trailed by 11 or more after the first quarter. And then you see in the middle, I had 3 home categories. homes between the threes, a home favorite of 3.5 to 8, and a home favorite of 8.5 or higher. On the right-hand side of the chart in the orange are the exact same deficits, but at halftime. And Teddy and Steve, we've talked about this all the time. When you do a chart like this, you want to see some consistencies. And take a look just quickly at the chart. The home between the threes, the home favorites, and the big home favorites of 8.5 or more. Each category is exactly what you want to see. The smallest percentage for those home teams that were in a pick'em game, the middle percentage for the small home favorites, and the best straight up records for those big home favorites. And you look down all 9 categories, it is completely consistent, which makes sense. If you're a home favorite of 8.5 or higher, even if you're down in the first quarter, or even if you're down in the first half, you are the superior team and you expect that team to come back. I'm going to just show one example. And as always, I'll put this on Twitter. I wrote a note this off season. I will actually do a much more detailed chart, breaking every category down with only a 1 or 2 point difference so we can see if there is a better range on where to play. But let's take a look at an example. In the middle, home teams, when they're a home favorite of 8.5 or more, then I'm looking to the right. When they're down by 6 to 10 in the first half, those big favorites, even though they're down from 6 to 10 points, so your live betting situations, you might even be on a positive money line. Those teams have actually won 50.9%. So, I'm not sure how much you can get out of it if it's going to help you, but at least you know the answer. How many people have live bet and never know what the results are? You live bet, you hope you win, you hope you lose. But now this at least quantifies to a degree in what stages you are as a favorite when you're down after one quarter or down after one half.
So can we get that chart back up for 1 second? Because I do have a follow here for Ralph, and I'm going to give my takeaways to me, what stands out, this is my first look at this chart, but it stands out to me if you're in a tight point spread range, the +3s to -3s, and you're down after the first quarter or the first half by margin, those aren't teams you want to ask to come back. But if the big favorites are down at the end of the first quarter, first half, those are teams you do want to ask to come back. Is that what the chart is saying to you, Ralph? Because that to me is the one thing that really stands out. Between the threes, when the points are between the threes, we ain't asking those teams to rally when they fall behind early, but we are going to do that for the big favorites.
Absolutely, Teddy. And, big favorites, take a look at big favorites. There's only been 38 in the last 4 years that have trailed by 11 or more in the first quarter. Well, if you're a big favorite and you're down by 11 or more, you're going to be getting a massive point spread record, or you're going to be plus money on the money line. And they've come back 18 out of 38 times to win straight up 47% of the time. So absolutely, like I said, I'll do a deeper dive in the summer. Obviously, we'll post the charts and we'll send them out to everyone. But it'll be interesting to see when I break them down into smaller categories. I'll do trailing by 1 to 3, 3 to 5, 5 to 7, 7 to 9, and then I'll break down the money lines as well. So we'll get a more detailed context of maybe there is some cherry picking involved when we're looking at those big favorites.
Ralph, I want to ask you real quick. You might have mentioned this, I might have missed it, but is this at any point in the first quarter or first half, or is this at the end of the first quarter, first half, a team is down by, say, 1 to 5?
The database can only do post. So this is after the first quarter in the break.
Gotcha.
And which is the one time where you are going to get the consistent live betting number. We know that
Sure.
different sports books put them up at different times, but we know after the first quarter and after the first half, you always have the ability to bet them at that time. So yeah, unfortunately, Steve, the database is limited. I can do biggest lead, but I can never find out what time period the biggest lead is in. So if you said, hey, what happens if a team is trailed by 30 at any point in the game? That I can discover and bring into context. But as far as this chart involves, quarter and halftime scores.
Yeah, and that's how I read it as well. So that makes sense. So once again, it's the end of the first quarter, end of the first half is where these margins come into play. By the way, you never should have told me you have the capability of doing some research with biggest lead because I've done a lot of stuff with that over the years. I find that a fascinating stat in the NBA. So I'm going to have to pick your brain at some point on that. One quick takeaway, and we'll go to some games for tonight. If you look at the small favorites, I'm sorry, the first the small favorites of I'm sorry, this first quarter 1-5 deficit, the small deficits. I'm confusing myself. There's so much info here. The only one in which the home favorites of 8.5 actually have a higher win percentage after the first half than the first quarter is that 1-5 deficit range, which once again shows how meaningless a big favorite being down early in the first quarter is. They actually come out 69% of the time and win, but they do it 73% of the time at the half when they're down 1-5. So once again, and one other thing to keep in mind, this is the last 4 years. We have higher scoring NBA games than any time in history this season. So obviously higher scoring games means leads aren't as valuable versus low scoring games. So it's something to keep an eye on moving forward as well. But once again, Ralph's got the last 4 years. So it's pretty much the current NBA, the way things are playing right now. Ralph, want to talk to you about your. Yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say next week's chart, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll continue on. It is March Madness, so we'll put it away. But the next time we're on after March Madness has dwindled after a couple of weeks, I'll do a team-by-team breakdown, which teams this year have trailed after one quarter and what wins they've had and first half. So we'll do team NBAs, first quarter, first halves in 2 weeks after when we get to the Sweet 16.
Well, the Boston Celtics might blow up your database because they screwed me twice in the past week with like 20-point leads. So then I used them as a free play only the other night. And of course, they held onto the big lead the whole time from start to finish, which was a 100% certainty. All right, Ralph, your Cleveland Cavaliers against Joe Ranieri's Miami Heat. What are you doing with this game tonight?
Well, again, we've seen more and more back-to-back games when you're playing a 2-game road trip when you go to Miami like Cleveland is. So I just wanted to give some general numbers first, just to help educate some of our fans. Since 2019, when you've played the same regular season opponent back-to-back, if a team won the first game, they've won straight up 58.6, and they've covered 52%. So don't get in that habit. It's hard to beat an NBA twice. It's not. They've actually, again, won 59% straight up if you won the first, covered 52. If the team won the first game as a dog, in the next game, they've only covered 46%, and the over-under is 42.5% to the over, 57.5% to the under. And if they won on the road, like the Cavs did yesterday, the ATS number is 49.6. So a lot of ATS numbers in that 48 to 52%. So don't fall into a trap either way if you're playing a team in the second of the same back-to-back opponents. With this said, though, I do have a system. When you're playing in the regular season, you're playing the same opponent twice. The first game went under. The total is less than the last game, which makes sense because the first game went under. That is a 61% system to the under. And then I look at teams like Miami, 6-12 over under against winning teams, and they're 1-8 over under versus winning teams with a total of 217 or less. And you look at the Cavs as an away favorite, 5-11 over under as an away favorite, and 3-10 over under as an away favorite with a total of 223 or less. And yesterday's game, the game 2 nights ago, 204 points, and that is with the Cavs allowing Miami to shoot 50%. I don't think they'll allow them to shoot 50% again. Give me the under tonight in the second game in 3 nights between the Cavs and the Heat.
So I watched these teams play earlier in the week, and there were 2 things that stood out to me from that ball game. One was Miami turned the ball over at an uncharacteristic rate. They had a ton of turnovers in that ball game. And 2 was that the Heat missed a bunch of bunnies right by the rim that they normally make, and Cleveland missed a fair few as well. It felt like both teams missed a lot of makeable shots in that contest. Do you worry about anything like that, Ralph, in terms of the nuance of the particular first matchup? Or is this, hey, the database is telling us this is positive expectation. The situation tells us this is positive expectation. Don't get caught up in the nuance. Don't overthink it. Look to the under.
Well, Teddy, as you said that, I'm looking at the chart. When you said it, number of turnovers, they have only had over 16 turnovers 3 times since mid-January. 19 turnovers at Orlando, 19 turnovers against Atlanta, and 22. So not only are you correct, it is by a wide margin that they had that bad of a turnover. That might be some concern. But the concern as far as the Bunnies, with the Cavs' young forwards and centers, I don't worry about that because they play great interior defense. The issue with the Cavs is normally the guard play because they have two guards that don't want to play defense. But the interior portion of that doesn't concern me because the Cavs as a whole, with enough games that I watched, I know they can improve on that interior defense.
Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com, and Ralph is one of the best, not the best, college basketball cappers on the planet, in my opinion. So, Ralph, we got to ask you about a college game before we head out. SEC quarterfinals tonight. Let's talk about the late game, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. Kentucky's a very interesting team to me. It's a team I feel it's kind of underachieved at times this season, but could be very dangerous. North Carolina, by the way, in big trouble after losing last night. But I use the analogy because last year Carolina came in as an 8 seed. Kentucky's going to be in that mid-seed range probably, but I think they could be a very dangerous team. What are your thoughts on this Kentucky-Vanderbilt game tonight?
Obviously, a quick revenge for Kentucky. Losing at home against seniors night. And, a lot of people think, oh, homecoming games and senior nights, those are positives. To me, it's a negative. There's distractions and your parents are coming out, you're getting your jerseys and you're doing those things. Kentucky shot 32% in that game. There's no way in hell they shoot 32%. And, you're looking at Vanderbilt, a team that doesn't expect to win a game. They got to play a very bad LSU team. LSU shot 33% yesterday. So I'm looking for a big bounce back in Kentucky. Now, here's the issue. Remember, for Vanderbilt, Liam Roberts, the SEC Defensive Player of the Year, is out. He's missed the last handful of games. So Kentucky playing as bad as they did is a shocker. He's still out here. As far as Kentucky goes, I could see Kentucky losing in the first round in an upset loss, and I could see Kentucky getting to the Elite Eight. Why? There's been no team more injury riddled. Wallace has been injured. Wheeler has missed games. Frederick has missed games. This team has been devastated. And they had both of their point guards out against Kentucky. We now see Wallace is going to play. We see Frederick is going to give it a go today. Wheeler is still a question mark. I'm not counting Wheeler in, but if he can get back by next week and you have your entire complement of players, this team can go a long, long way. I believe they have enough guys today that with the double bye, the advantage of watching Vanderbilt now having to play back-to-back days against the Kentucky team healthier than they've been for a while, not completely healthy yet, but I certainly have my eye on the injury report, and Kentucky to me can go a long, long way if they hit their stride.
So Kentucky will certainly have the crowd support tonight, significant crowd support in Nashville for the Wildcats. That being said, the Vandy plays in Nashville. Is this one of these situations where, because oftentimes in the SEC tournament, I consider it like a Kentucky home floor, even though it's not, because their fans travel. Is this a spot where the vaunted edge that Kentucky has in terms of crowd support isn't going to be what it usually is because they're playing right in Vandy's home city? Do you know?
No. I mean, you look at Vanderbilt's crowd. So Vanderbilt just doesn't have the fan support. And, I remember going to a tournament in Cleveland. The Blue travels. I think they're the best traveling college basketball fan base there is in the country. So no matter what situation you are, no matter where they're playing, if this game were being played on Nashville's home court and they gave all their fans the ability to buy tickets, I'm sure we would still see more blue in the crowd. So you mentioned Kansas. You mentioned Kentucky having the home edge. Kansas is another one playing in Kansas City where it's basically a second home court for them.
And right now, the projection for Kentucky is a 6 seed. If you look at Joe Lunardi, he's got Vanderbilt, the 7th team, out. So this is a huge game for Vanderbilt. They could still play their way maybe into the tournament, but not likely tonight. 8.5-point dog. And we've actually seen this line rise a point and a half. There's been some early sharp money on Kentucky in this game. Ralph, what do you have going on? College basketball show today on Friday. You won't be on, but you will be on Monday. There's going to be a special show Monday. You and Dwayne Bryant breaking down the tournament, the Field of 68 after its release. So check that out. College basketball, 2 o'clock Eastern every weekday. Ralph, what else is going on at WagerTalk.com?
Well, I'll be on with Teddy tomorrow on Cover It with Teddy Covers on Sirius, so check that out. Dwayne and I will be doing a March Madness TNA show. So if you love TNA and the trends and angles and situations, that's what we'll be breaking down on Monday. And as important, later today, check out my homepage. The Wager Talk MLB Stat Guide will be available for free. 2 full pages on every team, plus previews from some of the other cappers at Wager Talk and Sports Memo. My son did a great job. You have last year's MLB rosters. Bold guys are back. Red are gone. It tells you where they've gone. Highlighted blue players with all their stats are the acquisitions. Plus, for all those that like TNA, there are 68 situations that we broke down on the money line, on the run line, and over-under records for every MLB team for the last 2 years. Check it out. It'll be on my homepage this afternoon, wt.buzz/RM.
That's awesome. Ralph Michaels, WagerTalk.com. Stat Daddy, the human database. Yet another reason, by the way, to hit subscribe and hit that bell for instant alerts when those shows go live, including that special Trends and Angles show with Dwayne and Ralph next Monday for the tournament. Teddy, you and I agree more times than not, probably more than Prez and you agree. But we wanted to talk about what bettors learned. And I saw you did put a question mark, but I kind of have a feeling we might be on different sides on this one. Is today or yesterday or these 2 days, is this Thursday and Friday the greatest days in college hoops?
I think so. I mean, look, it's just after 9 a.m. here in Las Vegas. And I don't encourage you to turn us off. There's only one game that's already started, Purdue, Rutgers. There's another game starts in a little bit, and then another game starts after that, and then boom. There's meaningful, bettable college hoops from 9 a.m. Pacific time till midnight tonight? I mean, there's a whole bevy of games start at 8:30 or 9 o'clock here on the left coast. And that's when the tip-offs are scheduled. Half of them will probably start late. And these are mostly friggin' great games. Meaningful games for every team involved. Bids on the line, titles on the line. It's exciting. And look at the point spreads. One competitive game after the next. There's 36 of them by my count. There's 12 sets of conference Final Fours. Even in multi-bid leagues, once you reach the Final Four, you want to cut down some friggin' nets. All right? I Cover It today, as Ralph was talking about, from noon to 2. Other than that, I'm plunked in front of the TVs pretty hardcore for the next 14 hours. Let's make some money, not just for today, but we're also going to figure out which teams are going to be gassed in the second half tomorrow. This is the best day of the year, right here, fan or better. For the pros, be a pro, not a Joe. This weekend, understand next weekend's the hype. This weekend's where the money's to be made. And next weekend, we're waiting around for 2 buzzer beaters all weekend. We'll see 5 thrilling final minutes today. I'll take the over 5. It's going to be a fun day of college hoops. What about you think, Steve? Over under 5 games decided in the final minute.
Over under 5 in the final minute? Oh, yeah. I'll take the over in the final minute. Yeah. It's probably a solid line. It depends on how you read this question because, look, when I saw this last night, it's a no-brainer for me. Next Thursday and Friday are my favorite 2 days of the college basketball season. But that's as a Joe. And I consider myself a pro 95, 99% of the time. I watch less games than I probably have ever watched in 30 years. You know that. And the reason is because I just can't get into watching games that don't have a lot of meaning. And I understand that they are playing for something today, but almost every game today is either a quarter or a semifinal, In fact, I think they all are. I don't think there's any finals today. I know there's bubble teams, but these are still teams that, really maybe don't deserve to be in there. Most of the good teams today are locked in. Whether they win or lose doesn't change much. Next Thursday or Friday, you have to win. It's an elimination. And it's the same reason I get into the NBA playoffs. I get into the NFL playoffs. I get into the baseball playoffs. I enjoy watching games that have meaning. College football fits that bill better than any sport just because the regular season games are almost elimination games. But, yeah, for Teddy, for me, maybe from a betting perspective, it's different. I don't disagree. But as a fan and people viewing on the chat, weighing on the chat, I'm going to be reading them as Teddy responds here. Next Thursday and Friday are the 2 best days in all of college sports, in my opinion.
So there are 36 games today. Next Thursday, there will be 16 games. There will be 4, and Friday there'll be 16 more. So there'll be fewer games for the entire opening salvo than there will be today. Of those 32 games on Thursday and Friday of the NCAA tournament, you're going to have your 1 seeds versus the 16 seeds, your 2 seeds versus the 15 seeds. You have a whole bunch of non-competitive games. All right. So maybe of the 32 games, 20 of them or 25 of them are be competitive. They're all going to be competitive today. You'll see. That's my take. You're allowed to like next week. Look, nothing wrong with the big dance. All right. We spend all year hyping up the big dance. And I'm with you. I'm loving that opening weekend. All I'm saying, I'm not dissing the big dance. This is just better. More. And you say, oh, they're not meaningful. Once you get to a Final Four in a conference tournament, they're meaningful. Their season's not over if they lose, but they're meaningful.
5 games deciding the final minute today versus 2 next week. The 2 are more meaningful. I guess that's my take on it, because it's lose and go home. Most of these teams will still be playing next week, or they didn't deserve to play next week either way. But I get your point. Hey, look, we're picking hairs here, right? Because they're both great weeks in college hoops, and it sure beats November and December for college hoops. That's for sure. And it's the same with the NBA, Teddy. It's hard to really get into the NBA other than as handicappers. I find great angles watching these games. Picking our spots, but the NBA playoffs, obviously, things pick up in April and May for the same reason, just like it does in March for college hoops. Normally, I don't like saying this, but I actually want to get Tony Finn's opinion on this real quick before we get into some games. So, Tony Finn from Las Vegas, you had to choose. If you could, let me put it this way. If I could only bet 1 week or the next, it'd be this week. If I can only watch 1 week or the next, it'd be next week. Maybe that's the best way to put it, Teddy. Tony, do you agree, disagree?
This is what I would say. 1 billion Chinese can't be wrong. Try to get a seat in a sports book in Las Vegas next weekend compared to today, and
Right.
You're going to be right, Steve. But you're also correct. Teddy's also correct as far as value goes, as far as having some edges in games. These are very familiar games. These teams have seen each other, and those who pay attention have some edges to share with others. That's what you guys are doing. What better day could it be than be on Friday, Conference Tournament Friday, Championship Week with Steve, Merrill, and Teddy Covers. This is a great day.
One thing I did think, Teddy, last night when he put this in the notes was that
Yeah.
this Friday is more exciting than this Thursday. And I think next Thursday is more exciting than next Friday, because, it's a little bit of the same thing on Friday. That first Thursday, the tournament, is when everyone's really pumped. And then it's going to have the same thing on Friday. So we'll see how it plays out. Great day either way. By the way, I love the chat here. We got the live chat. Big Daddy. Next week, of course, he says, Art Knight is one of the best loyal viewers on WagerTalk TV. He said he likes next week, although he doesn't like how the committee now puts the smaller schools against each other earlier on and the big boys against each other. We don't get as many of the mid-major upsets as we used to, and I do agree with that for Knight. All right, Tony, let's look at some hoops here. What do you want to talk about here? I'll let you run with it.
Well, we're going to talk a couple hoops games today. Well, let's start with the NBA, since we just talked a little bit about college, or at least I listened to you guys talk a little about college. And we're going to start with a game in the city of brotherly love, when the Portland Trailblazers travel inside Wells Fargo to take on a team in pretty good form in the Philadelphia 76ers. Some would argue with me. Some would say the schedule's been soft, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the situation. I really like the total in this game, and I like it north. Right now, I like it north of the number. And I think it's going to carry. I think it's going to climb another point or two, all things equals. But since Maxey has gotten healthy, and again, Tyrese Maxey, and inserted into the starting lineup, really before he got hurt, even for that matter, this Philly offense has been really, really, really good. And I said that 3 times, and I really, really like. That's a lot for me. The 76ers are averaging over 130 points per 100 possessions, non-garbage time, according to whatever metrics you follow. Cleaning the glass is who I follow. At least I spend a lot of time looking at their charts. Here's the issue, though. The good and the bad, right? With Tyrese Maxey, with Maxey and Harden on the floor, that's that 132 and change I talked about. However, they allow 124 per 100 possessions. Defensively, they're not the team that Philly wants to be, or Doc Rivers wants to be, per se. Let's say that. Let's track Lillard, and let's talk about his 38 points and 50% shooting from the floor in the last 25 to 30 games, right? Tonight, Friday night, Philadelphia, with Lillard, with Maxey, with Harden, with Embiid. Good stuff. And listen, there's going to have to be a serious I think, some serious beer drinking before the game for these guys not to combine to go over the 232. Let's call it a 232 right now. I still think it's going to reach 233 before all is said and done this afternoon.
So Tony says, take a look for a high-scoring affair in the city of brotherly love. He likes the Blazers and 76ers over the total. I'm going to talk about the side for that game in just a few minutes. Tony, let's get one college basketball opinion from you before we have to let you go. ACC tournament action, Duke and Miami. We saw one prominent book open Duke -1. We saw other prominent books open Duke -3. And it's kind of sitting in the middle right now. Duke -2.5, total 145. What are we going to do with the Canes and the Blue Devils?
Well, I like this game today. I really do, because I've been a Miami fan this year on more than one occasion, because they've helped me be successful to whatever degree that might be. Right now, it's not been great, but they have covered and allowed me and the clients to cash quite a few tickets. Duke comes into this number 1 versus number 4 league tournament with, let's call it a spit shine, as opposed to a fire-baked coat of good-looking paint as they sit in the shelves and smile at everyone. This is due to that Pitt 60 or 96-69 score in the quarterfinals yesterday, right? Easily covering the 5, 6, whatever you laid if you're on Duke in the contest. Miami, now they weren't very good yesterday. This happens sometimes when the one's facing a 9 or Wake Forest, and Wake Forest capable. Guys, they're capable. It's a good team. It's probably now with that loss at NIT and not a big dance squad. The final score 74-72, guys. That's a 6.5 point, basically a higher seed favorite. Doesn't cover, but they win. And what do you do this time of year? As Coach Larry said so nicely yesterday, win and advance. Just survive and advance. Old school thought. Sometimes that doesn't help us in our business, but I like what they were able to do. They've done this all year, guys. They went through the non-con early in the conference. They were struggling as a road team, but this is an experienced group of Miami Hurricanes, and this is a young group of Duke players who really have come together to be better cohesively defensively. I do not, in any way, shape, or form, save a meltdown Miami, again, drinking before the game and can't find the rim, that Duke can possibly hang with Miami for 40 minutes offensively. I like the fact that I'm getting the higher seed and points. Give me Miami Hurricanes.
Tony says, look at the Canes, plus the points in ACC action tonight. Tony, what do you have to promote? What do you have going over at WagerTalk, going on at WagerTalk.com today?
I'm going to go ahead. This Philly and Trailblazers game is going to be a client play, total over. I haven't put it in the system yet, mostly because I think it's going to climb, and I would prefer that my clients think I'm going to get graded on a play with the totals as close as it can be to the actual number they're going to get. So that said, that's going to be played. Right now I have 2 college games up. Miami is also an official client play for me today. I have another game that's earlier coming out of the Big East, and I have 2 other games, possibly 3 other games that are tentative that will be added to that package. It's an all-access college tournament package, and they only be added, though, if certain criteria is met. There's some question marks out there today, guys. Teddy, you said it. How motivated or Kansas won? Is Kansas motivated to play hard, guys? Are they motivated to play hard? Bill Self's not on the sidelines. Still question marks about what really happened 2 nights ago. Does Kansas do they have to win this tournament to be the overall number 1? There's the assessment really a gamer has to make here. Is Kansas already the overall number 1? Or do they have to win this tournament to be the overall number 1? And there are many more questions, but I have 2 or 3 more games that I'll be adding to my package. Everything falls perfectly. So Tony Finn, all access college basketball tournament package. You can get everything I've got all Friday, all access college tournament basketball only at WagerTalk.
It's Tony Finn, WagerTalk.com. You can also get the rest of the college basketball season for Tony or any capper through April 3rd for just $149. And once again, I mentioned it Wednesday, I mentioned it Thursday. Every day you wait is one less day you're getting for free with that $149 special, WagerTalk.com. And by the way, Kansas is currently projected by Lenardi to be the number 1 seed. When I put my contest up a week ago, it was Alabama or Houston. So one of my questions in my contest, my free contest, is number one seed, Bama, Houston, or other. So if you want to go enter right now and you think it's Kansas, you get other and every other team in the nation in that selection. Once again, free to enter went up to a $2,000 value of free service from Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. My college basketball contest is still live. All right, Teddy Covers, 30-second commercial break, and we'll be right back with a big game breakdown from Teddy Covers.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout. Have you checked out...
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Got to give a little hype at the top here. I do have a 5% big ticket going in college hoops today. 55 and 30, 65% with those 5% big ticket reports dating all the way back to 2021. So it's been an extended run of success with my strongest selection. You get that now over at WagerTalk or sportsmemo.com. This is a client play for this evening, a 3% selection for my clients and I. That's Philly and Portland. Right now, look at the WagerTalk live odds screen. I'm seeing the 76ers -9. They have taken a little bit of money. There are 9.5s popping up. 233 the total. Now, Philly's coming home off a successful road trip. First game home after sweeping back-to-backs against the Pacers and the T-Wolves. And the Blazers are off a bad loss at Boston. So it's kind of a knee-jerk spot, says Blazers, right? Wrong. I went back and looked. Okay. 76ers 22-12 against the spread at home this season. They're 4-0 against the spread at -7 or higher since the start of February. But the surprising number is their winning results on the first game back off a road trip. They've won and covered against the Hawks, the Pelicans, the Lakers, the Knicks in recent tries. So beating solid teams, decent teams in the process. This is a good 76ers team. They're legit contenders, and they're deep. The Blazers aren't very good. It's Dame and the Seven Dwarfs again. And look at Portland on the road against good teams. Since the All-Star break, they faced 4 of them. They lose to Sacramento by 17, to Golden State by 18, to Atlanta by 18, and to Boston by 22. Go back before the All-Star break. They're getting smacked at Denver, at Toronto, at Indy with Halliburton, at Minnesota, at Golden State. They got 2 wins on the road since the beginning of 2023. It hasn't been pretty for Portland. Now it's the 5th game of their 6-game road trip. They still got to go to New Orleans, which is their bigger game than this one. If I'm playing, I'm laying. Give me Philly minus the points against the Blazers. I do not expect this one to be close. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Merrill.
Teddy Covers says if you're going to play it, you better lay it. And that's tonight on Friday in the NBA. Once again, NBA tip-off show. More NBA talk at 4:15 Eastern Friday. Also, college basketball talk at 2 o'clock Eastern. And I'll be on some NBA right after this show with Jay Money on his channel at 1 o'clock Eastern. NBA Talks with Jay Money. Check that out on YouTube as well. All right, speaking of the NBA and the NHL, we talk a lot of college hoops now, but the 2 big pro sports going, Andy Lang covers big time with his props, NHL and NBA, and Andy's got a fantastic special right now. The rest of both seasons combined for just $149. And Andy, we're going to talk some NBA and NHL props in a moment, but you also dive into the other sports such as UFC, and you're the #1 MMA capper in 2023 at WagerTalk.com. UFC Fight Night in Las Vegas this Saturday, March 11th. What's something you're looking at? What's the way to play this?
There's a couple fights that are pretty juicy. One in particular is -950. So I was looking at just combining these two into a pretty good parlay. So I'll start with Jonathan Martinez and Saeed Nurmagomedov. And stylistically, it's a bad matchup for Jonathan Martinez. He's on a pretty nice winning streak, 4 wins in a row. But he has one... like Liam Neeson. He has a very particular set of skills and that's leg kicks. Like that's what he's best at. And he's been able to dominate over the last 4 fights. In fact, the last fight that he had, he actually won. Cub Swanson couldn't finish the fight because his legs were so beat up. This is a completely different style of fighter. This is a guy who's going to wrestle, take the fight to the mat, and hunt for a submission. It's going to eliminate Martinez's big advantage on the feet. The guys that Martinez has fought just stand there and try and trade punches. And Nurmagomedov is not going to do that here. So Martinez is okay takedown defense, but Saeed is going to have no problem taking it down. Saeed's last fight was incredible. He was losing that fight against Kakhramonov, who's a really, really good wrestler and grappler. Late in the fight, Saeed gets a submission, comes out of nowhere to win. Saeed should dominate Martinez on the mat in this one. And then we got Mario Bautista and Guido Canetti. Listen, shout out to Guido Canetti. The guy's 43 years old, still getting it done. He's won 2 fights in a row in the UFC, but they've been against really bad fighters. In fact, both those guys are not even in the UFC anymore. Mario Bautista is the young, up-and-coming fighter. He just scored a big knockout in his last fight. Guido Canetti probably not going to have much for Bautista unless he gets something done really early. Canetti's cardio is non-existent after the first round. So look for Bautista to avoid the knockout and submission in the first round and then to get it done. So I'll parlay those 2 fights. It gets you less than minus 200. You're looking around minus 170, minus 180. I think it's worth a sprinkle.
Andy Lang says, take a look at the 2 bigger favorites, Nurmagomedov and Bautista in
well
UFC
done, Teddy.
On Saturday night. Let's talk a little NHL tonight. And I'm embarrassed by this because a lot of the times at least I know what team the guy is on. And I feel like I should know what team Michael Backlund is on, but I don't know what team he's on. Tell me. And why, whether you want over or under his shots on goal.
Well, if you've been following NHL props, this name is no stranger. Mikael Backlund and his teammate Tyler Toffoli are getting it done on the shots on goal prop. Backlund is on a 10-1 run going over his shots on goal total, and he gets the best matchup in the NHL tonight. Not a good matchup, the best. Faces the Anaheim Ducks. They give up the most shots on goal per game at 39.4. This team gives up almost 40 shots on goal a game. They're historically one of the worst defenses in the NHL, and they give up the most shots on goal to centers in the league. They give up over 14 shots on goal to the centers that they play. It's a fantastic matchup. Backlund and Toffoli are going to be firing at will on this poor goaltender tonight. So go ahead and take Backlund. This is one of those streaks that we just keep riding and riding and riding until the end of the regular season.
So Backlund plays in Calgary, the media hotbed of Calgary. So I don't watch SportsCenter anymore, so I don't get I know before they decide I don't get that little hockey fix with the names in it. And when you're playing in Calgary, you're probably going to go over my radar. Steve?
Yeah, I was going to say, don't feel bad, Teddy. I don't follow hockey like I did 20, 30 years ago when I used to like the Washington Capitals. We focus. It makes me feel better. I don't watch SportsCenter anymore either, Teddy, so we're on the same page there. Wager Talk Today is where I get my wagering information on WagerTalk TV. And Andy, I mentioned earlier, you've got a great special. You do NHL and NBA props, also the other sports, but the rest of both seasons, normally $349, just $149 combined, NHL and NBA. So you gave us an NHL prop. Give us a little taste in the NBA prop tonight as well.
Well, anytime I have a prop and it's the same game that Teddy uses in the big game breakdown, I am ready for a follow-up here. We'll take Jeremy Grant over 4.5 rebounds. It's a little bit of an obscure prop, but he's getting over this totals. He's gone over in 6 out of 7 games. And it's surprisingly a good matchup when you just look at the positions. Philly gives up over 7 rebounds a game to small forwards. And Anthony Simons has been in and out of the lineup. He's questionable tonight. If he doesn't play, that's going to give guys like Cam Reddish and Jeremy Grant more opportunities at rebounds. I just like this streak that Grant is on 6 out of 7 games. I think it's flying under the radar. Philly's a really good rebounding team, but for whatever reason, they struggle just a little bit to small forwards. I think this number is a little bit too low. I'll take the over on Grant over his rebounds.
So here's the follow-up for this one: is that the Blazers just got Nurkic back in the lineup, and in theory, he's supposed to take many of the available rebounds after he missed an extended stretch of time. Does that worry you here that especially because Nurkic's going to get the playing time against Embiid tonight? Is he going to steal Grant's rebounds?
I don't think so. Listen, I've been so out on Nurkic this year. I mean, the guy plays little to no defense right now. If anything, he should be trying to work on blocking out Embiid and wrestling with Embiid, and maybe that gives some of the other guys chances to come in and fly at rebounds. Nurkic doesn't really move the needle for me at all. My guess is he's probably going to be in foul trouble at some point trying to guard Embiid. So no, I just like the streak that Grant is on. To me, that kind of overcompensates for what Nurkic may do. So not a big Nurkic fan. I don't think he affects this play.
It's Andy Lang, the prop master. And Andy, you've got a fantastic special NHL, NBA combined. Tell us more about that and what else you got going on at WagerTalk.com.
We love pouncing on these props post the All-Star breaks in NHL and NBA. Last year, we were plus 85 units in both sports combined. So just decided to run a special. Why not run it back again? And you can get NHL and NBA, all plays for the rest of the regular seasons and playoffs for $149. We're on a 10-1 run in NHL props. So we're over 30 units already post the All-Star breaks in both of these sports. We increased the volume in NHL, and it's just been a recipe for success. Once we start getting close to the playoffs, we just find these guys on these big streaks in these grooves, and it rides in the regular season towards the end and through the playoffs. So only $149. We're on a really, really nice run. Number one in NHL last 3, 7, and 30 days. Got a 4% best bet up in MMA, and we're the number one MMA handicapper in 2023. Weekend and the few weeks ahead look really, really good. Myself and clients really happy these days.
It's Andy Lang, WagerTalk.com. Check him out right now, the prop master, Andy Lang. Teddy, great show. We'll be back next week on Monday. Teddy's got a huge 5% college basketball best bet tonight on Friday. Check that out. Also, I've gone 7-2, 78% the last 3 nights, plus hit both free plays. Check out my page. Plus, enter my free college basketball contest for up to a full year of service right now. Steve Merrill, WagerTalk.com. Teddy, enjoyed doing the show with you this week. Take us home.
Sure. I'm sure we'll do it again in the not too distant future, Steve. That's going to wrap it for the week here at Wager Talk Today. We'll do it again next week. Every weekday, 9 a.m. here on the Left Coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, enjoy those games. We'll be back on Monday with Big Dance Lines.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.